learners, I welcome you all to the fourth segment of lecture number 25. In the past two videos and in the past two segments, we've been looking at how arbitral tribunal examines the objective of the regulatory measure and adopts a weighing and balancing approach. So we are continuing that in this particular segment also. This is the last segment of 25th lecture. So in this segment, we will be looking at the case Electrabel versus Hungary. So in the past videos, we looked at some of the cases. So we will conclude our discussion with Electrabel versus Hungary case. In this case, the investor was a Belgian corporation who had challenged Hungary's measure to terminate the power purchase agreement (PPA), and the PPA was actually signed between the investor and Hungary. Why did Hungary terminate PPA? Because it took this measure in order to comply with EC Commission's final decision on state aid, and this particular decision was actually confirmed by the General Court as well as ECJ as well. So, Hungary stated that it was a legitimate public policy measure that it had taken in order to align its electricity sector with that of the EU and also to eliminate the distortions with regard to competition that would happen within Hungary as well as abroad. So, this was the contention of Hungary. However, we see that EC Commission itself states that the country, that is Hungary, can take a decision with regard to the compensation to be paid to generators for stranded cost. So, EC's Commission's methodology allows for this to do. Now, what the investors started claiming was, the investors started saying that EC's commission was actively encouraging Hungary to pay compensation, and initially Hungary also agreed to pay compensation but later changed its mind and decided to keep the money. This is what the investor was saying. Then the tribunal looked at the facts of the case and stated that the measures were actually taken at a time when Hungary was emerging from a severe political and economic crisis, and it had suffered from huge budgetary constraints, which was a result of global economic and financial crisis. So the tribunal looked at the evidence and stated that there was no evidence to prove that Hungary has changed its mind and decided to keep the money. So that contention of investor was rejected by the tribunal. Then obviously the Electrabel tribunal went ahead to see if the objective of the regulatory measure was something that is proportional to the effect on the investment. So that's an analysis that was undertaken by Electrabel tribunal here, and the tribunal stated that ideally the balancing thing should be done by the state while enacting a measure, and there is a wide margin that is given to the host state to determine the contours of the regulatory measure. All of this, generally in an abstract way, the Electrabel tribunal spoke about the powers of the host state, the regulatory powers of the host state, and then decided to apply that to the facts of this particular case. Then the Electrabel tribunal noted that this particular measure was not decided and applied on the investor itself. In fact, what Hungary decided was, Hungary said it will pay 85% of the standard cost, and some calculation was done. That became the subject matter of this particular dispute. So here, Electrabel tribunal stated that it's not something that the measure was taken only to target this particular investor, and it was not that only this investor was getting affected by the measure. This was a general measure that applied to the electricity sector in general, and therefore there were Hungarian generators who were also affected by this particular measure. And this measure was taken at a time when Hungary was reeling from a huge fiscal and financial crisis. So the tribunal concluded that the Energy Charter Treaty's fair and equitable treatment standard is not violated. So what we see in this case and in the past cases that we discussed in the previous videos, we do see how the arbitral tribunal look at the objective behind the regulatory purpose, and that sort of plays a significant role when it comes to weighing and adopting a weighing and balancing approach where this particular aspect of objective behind the regulatory measures plays a key role. So I hope you've understood the different methods with which an arbitral tribunal could review a regulatory measure in order to arrive at the question if it was a legitimate regulatory measure or if it is an indirect expropriation. In this lecture and in the past lectures, we discussed sole effects doctrine, we've discussed police power doctrine, then we finally discussed weighing and balancing doctrine as well. So with that, I conclude this particular lecture. In the next lecture, we will start a new week wherein we will start discussing about the decided cases. It is very pertinent for us to look at the decided cases so that we understand in a practical sense how do environmental regulatory measure operate within the field of international investment law, and especially how it is decided in ISDS as well. Thank you.